For several years, we've been developing sermon-based small groups here as the primary venue for adult discipleship at San Pedro Presbyterian. Our small groups are regular, intentional gatherings of adults growing together in faith by debriefing the weekly sermons and building friendships as they share their stories of their lives. Small groups encourage adults to move from a more passive faith to an active spiritual development through intentional community. These are excellent rewards that flow out of the very foundation of small groups. Education and fellowship have been the driving force behind our small groups, but perhaps there's something more. This year, we will be launching a new direction for our small groups, which I've been calling holistic small groups. These groups will incorporate spiritual growth through sermon-based discussions and deepening community through intentional fellowship. But we will encourage practical application through missional outreach. In other words, holistic small groups will seek to integrate education, fellowship, and mission into a new small group model. Tonight, I want to provide for you an understanding of these three primary elements of small groups and explain the 4 by 1 by 1 structure that our groups will follow. When Jesus was asked what the greatest commandment is, he said, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. To wholeheartedly love God means to know God. The goal of Christian education is to equip the congregation to love God, to know God, and to experience God fully in their lives. Small group learning provides us with a place to wrestle these spiritual questions in the safety of community. But small groups are more than learning. They're about living out faith together. In our small groups, we learn to mature as a spiritual family. The early church intentional fellowship was known as koinonia, which is a Greek term for the common life together. This spiritual community prayed together, shared their belongings, worshiped God, and enjoyed each other's company. Holistic small groups will encourage groups to build koinonia by incorporating shared experience that promotes unity. Now, education and fellowship are essential for strengthening the faith and building community. But there's a danger. If a small group is centered only on those two things, they become inwardly focused, looking toward their own needs and the needs of those in their group. These groups have a danger of becoming a social club of Christians that love God and each other, but lose sight of God's mission in the world. The church is not about an individual or community and what they can get. It's about how the community can bring God's transforming presence into a hurting place. By integrating acts of service into the lifeblood of our groups, they will be challenged to discover the unique the unique missional ministry that God is inviting them into. Engaging in acts of service takes small groups out of the comfort of their living room and into the transformative expression of faith. Through holistic small groups, the congregation members will strengthen their relationship with God, building mutual influential relationships with each other, and share the love of Christ in our community. Participants will grow in faith and strengthen community as they spur one another on in love and good deeds. Embracing a new model for small group ministry will require a culture of change. Change towards holistic small groups will not happen overnight. It will require careful planning and incremental steps. Holistic groups will need to be modeled to show their effectiveness and to adapt to unforeseen issues. As church members see the benefits of these groups, they will begin to embrace the vision of holistic small groups. Our previous model was a sermon-based series. Groups would gather together for a particular series, and when that series ended, they would disband and reform when the next series started. Our holistic small groups will operate under a new structure, which I'm calling 4 by 1 by 1. Small group sessions will be divided into 6-week units. For 4 of these 6 weeks, they will focus around education. Groups will meet to discuss the week's sermons and dive deeper into the Word of God. It will not revolve around a particular sermon series, but will allow groups to start and stop and take breaks when needed. And while every meeting will contain fellowship, 1 week will be dedicated for intentional community. This meeting will focus around the members getting to know each other deeper on a more personal level. Fellowship nights might include a potluck meal, a game night, or a social outing. And then the final week will be missional engagement. We want to encourage groups to find a place where they can practically live out their faith. This could be visiting an assisted living facility, working at a food bank, or volunteering with a local charity. Groups will find opportunities to engage with those in need and show the love of Christ to others. These 6-week building blocks, or these 6-week blocks, can be patterned in a way that best fits the group. For example, a group can meet for 2 weeks of education, and then 1 week of fellowship, and then another 2 weeks of education, and followed with a week of mission, or any pattern that seems to best fit the group. After the 6 weeks have been completed, a group can repeat the 4x1 pattern, or take a short hiatus, or disband. But it's our hope that they will find a rhythm that encourages them to meet regularly as they show their faith and are building spiritual community, living out the mission of God in our world. Holistic small groups provide a much-needed push for our congregation to grow and flourish. By participating in groups that balance education, fellowship, and mission, it will inspire members to take ownership of their faith and our congregational growth. This model will encourage congregations to engage in God's mission together while growing in faith, friendship, and practice.